Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I opened the front gate and stepped onto the porch before I even had time to second guess the whole thing. My boots were still caked with jungle mud. I hadn't even changed out of my airport clothes. But I didn't care. I was finally home. After 12 months in South America tracking scarlet macaws and sleeping in tents, I was here to surprise my little boy. The front door creaked when I pushed it open. Noah, I called out smiling. Look who's home. He was in the living room, crouched in front of the coffee table with a coloring book. My heart almost broke seeing how tall he'd gotten. I reached into my backpack and pulled out the hand-carved wooden monkey I'd bargained for in a market outside Cusco. His favorite animal. I held it out. Noah, look what I brought you. He looked up at me, blinked once, and then his face changed. Ew, he said, scooting backward fast on his butt like I was on fire. You're gross. My hand dropped. The monkey hit the rug with a soft thud. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. What? I laughed, confused. Noah, it's me. Mommy's home. He scrambled behind my dad like I was a damn monster, clung to the back of his pant leg and glared at me. Grandpa was right, he said, his little voice shaking. You left because you don't care about me. That hit me harder than any storm I'd ever faced in the jungle. I stood frozen, hands still out, my mouth open like I'd forgotten how to speak. My dad didn't flinch, just looked me over and said flatly, You shouldn't have surprised him. Kids don't like drama. I dropped to my knees, holding out the monkey again, trying to steady my voice. Honey, this is for you. I got it just for you. Remember how you love monkeys? For a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. He reached forward, tiny fingers twitching like he might grab it. Then my mom's voice cut through the room like a razor. We don't touch dirty things, Noah. His hand snapped back. His shoulders curled in. He wouldn't look at me. They all turned toward the door. My mom picked up her purse. My dad opened the door like they were leaving church, not tearing me in half. I followed them to the car. Noah climbed into the back seat without a word. The monkey was still on the rug inside. The whole ride home, no one said a damn thing. Noah stared out the window like I wasn't even there. My mom scrolled her phone. My dad drove like it was just another Tuesday. And me? I sat there, next to my son, with jungle dirt on my jeans and a hole in my chest. We pulled into the driveway, and my dad barely waited for the car to stop before turning off the engine and getting out. My mom followed. No one said a word to me. Noah hopped out without looking back. I grabbed my backpack from the trunk, still feeling the weight of that carved monkey I left behind, and followed them inside. The house looked exactly the same, neat, beige, silent, like someone had vacuumed the soul out of it. Then I stepped into the living room. The wall hit me like a slap. Dozens of framed photos. Noah at a birthday party in a Halloween costume, painting with his fingers, holding a medal at some school event. But not one photo had me in it. Not one. It was like I'd never existed. Before I could say a word, Noah stopped at the carpet. Shoes off, he said quickly. Grandma says the living room's only for clean feet. I opened my mouth, closed it. He peeled his sneakers off, lined them up against the wall, and tiptoed toward the couch. His hand hovered over the coffee table, then he jerked it back. No fingerprints. That's rude, he recited. My throat burned. This wasn't just discipline. This was programming. We sat in silence for a while until my mom called us to dinner. Pot roast, green beans, everything in stiff little portions. Noah sat up perfectly straight in his chair like he was auditioning for a commercial. I tried to smile. So, I started gently. Do you remember the birds I told you about on the phone? The big red ones? We were tracking them to help protect their nests. Noah stared at his plate. My dad reached for the salt. And you left for that? He asked, not even looking at me. I left because I got an offer that would pay for Noah's daycare and his asthma meds. It was, You were in the jungle, my mom cut in sharply. He knows. We told him the truth. You left because you'd rather be with birds than be a mom. I dropped my fork. That's not what happened. Noah looked up. Grandma says scientists are selfish. I froze, my hands clenched in my lap. Noah, I went to work so you could have what you needed. I sent letters, gifts. The monkey. He shrugged. Grandma said it came from her. My voice cracked. Noah, I'm your mom. My dad stiffened. We're the ones raising him. That landed like a gut punch. But I kept my eyes on Noah. I've always been your mom. I love you. He didn't answer. I just poked his meat with his fork. Grandma says you lie a lot, he muttered. I looked across the table at my parents. They weren't even hiding it. My mom calmly took a sip of water. My dad folded his napkin like this was just another night. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, flip the damn table, grab my son, and run. But I didn't. I swallowed the rage because blowing up would just feed their narrative. May I be excused? Noah asked. My mom smiled. Of course, sweetheart. Go wash your hands. Use the lavender soap. He slid down from the chair and walked away. Not a single glance in my direction. I sat there staring at my half-eaten plate and realized they hadn't just taken care of him. They'd erased me. That night, I lay on the twin mattress in the old guest room, same floral sheets from high school, same lumpy pillow, and stared at the ceiling like it held answers. Noah's room was just down the hall. I could hear the soft hum of his white noise machine through the wall. It should have comforted me. It didn't. Instead, all I could think about was the day everything cracked open. 2 years ago, I got a phone call while washing dishes. A site manager told me my husband, Eric, had fallen from scaffolding at a warehouse build in Lexington. Head trauma. DOA. Just like that. No goodbyes, no warning. The funeral was a blur. I remember holding Noah's hand so tight his little fingers turned red. I remember the pity stares, the casseroles, the pile of bills sitting on the kitchen counter that no one else seemed to notice. Eric's life insurance didn't cover the overtime hours he'd worked. His company found a loophole, said he wasn't officially on shift. Bastards! The debt didn't care. Rent, diapers, his inhaler refills, preschool fees, it all hit like a freight train. I still remember the job listing. Peru, 12 months, endangered species monitoring. Hazard pay included. It had childcare stipends, a housing allowance, even bonuses for long-term stays. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't a vacation, it was survival. When I told my parents I was considering it, my mom's first question was, "And where exactly do you plan to store a toddler in the jungle?" I asked for help. Not forever, just long enough to get ahead, they agreed, but not without terms. If we're stepping in, my mom said, he'll follow rules. We don't want chaos, no messy parenting. She called it help with rules. I called it conditional love, but I kept that part to myself. I sent letters every damn week. Pictures, drawings, stuffed animals, a handmade journal with bird stamps for Noah to scribble in. The carved monkey had been the last gift I mailed before my flight home. I'd wrapped it in newspaper and tucked a note inside. For when mommy comes back. Love you always. Not once did I hear about any of it. When I asked my mom about the packages, she'd wave me off. He's too little. He doesn't need constant distractions. The video calls were worse. Every time I managed to get through, they'd end in 5 minutes flat. He gets upset afterward, she'd say. Let him have peace. And like an idiot, I believed her. I wanted to believe she had his best interest at heart, that she wasn't trying to make me vanish. But now it was all laid bare. This wasn't about screen time or bedtime or structure. This was about control. They'd built a version of me that didn't exist. A stranger who left and never looked back. And Noah? He was living in that version. My own son didn't see me as his mom anymore. He saw me as a visitor, an interruption. I heard footsteps outside my door. My mom probably doing her nightly rounds, checking locks, measuring control like it was oxygen. I kept still. They wanted me erased. But I wasn't gone, and I wasn't done. By the third morning, I was running on caffeine and spite. Noah sat at the kitchen table with a banana and dry cereal, swinging his legs in footy pajamas. I grabbed a napkin and gently leaned in to wipe the corner of his mouth. He flinched like I'd burned him. "Don't," he shouted, eyes wide. "Grandma says only bad people abandon their babies." I froze. The napkin hung in my hand like it weighed 100 pounds. I took a breath. My chest was shaking, but I kept my voice low. "That's not true. I left so you could have a future, Noah." He crossed his arms, looked down, didn't say anything else. My mom walked in like she hadn't heard a damn thing, humming and pouring herself coffee. I watched her sip it like poison hadn't just spilled out of my son's mouth. That night, after another silent dinner and another bedtime story where Noah wouldn't sit close, I stayed in the hallway long after his door clicked shut. I waited. Around 10, I heard them talking in the kitchen. their voices low but not low enough. "She's unstable," my mom said. "Emotional? That Peru job changed her." "She's not going to last," my dad added. "When the inheritance comes through, we'll be the logical choice." Inheritance? My stomach dropped. I moved closer to the stairs, leaned down just enough to hear more. "Eric's parents left something for Noah," my mom continued. "It's in a trust. Riley doesn't even know how to manage her own finances. She sent half her checks here for household costs. We just need to keep things calm until the court sees it our way." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, gripping my knees, replaying every red flag I'd ignored. By morning, I was done waiting. After breakfast, I crouched next to Noah in the living room while he arranged his toy cars by color. "Hey, bud," I said gently. "Remember that monkey toy I gave you?" He frowned. "Grandma gave it to me." "No," I said. "I bought it for you in Peru. I mailed it with a note." He blinked slowly. "Grandpa said you wanted to leave. You were tired of me." Something cracked in my chest, but I didn't let it show. I nodded slowly, like it didn't gut me. "Who told you that?" He looked toward the hallway, lowered his voice like it was a secret. "Grandma said if you take the money, I'll never see you again." There it was. Not confusion. Not a child struggling to understand. Indoctrination. I swallowed hard. "That's not true, sweetheart." He didn't answer, just went back to his cars like none of it mattered. But it did. All of it. The rules, the routines, the photo wall, the twisted stories. They hadn't just stepped in when I was gone. They'd built a world where I was the villain. I stood up and walked past the kitchen without looking at either of them. My dad was on his tablet. My mom was slicing fruit like she was running a damn brunch buffet. I didn't speak. I went straight to the hall closet and opened the bottom drawer. It was time to dig. The next night, the house smelled like pot roast and fake smiles. I came downstairs and found the living room transformed. Folding chairs lined up like pews, platters of crackers and cheese on the coffee table, wine glasses already half full. My mother flitted around in pearls and lipstick, grinning like she was hosting a charity auction. She spotted me and gave a tight smile. "Riley, you remember the Carmichaels, the Renzos, and of course, Pastor Dean." I nodded, kept my mouth shut. The room felt like a setup, and I wasn't about to hand over my neck. Noah, Ethan now, as they insisted everyone call him, stood near the fireplace, dressed in a stiff little button-up like a kid in a catalog. My dad hovered nearby, nodding along to some story Mrs. Renzo was telling about her garden, like we weren't all standing in a live-action smear campaign. Then my mother raised her wine glass and tapped a spoon against it. "Thank you all for being here tonight. As many of you know, the last couple years have been challenging. But we've done our best to give Ethan stability during chaos." My eyes flicked to Noah. He was squirming, pulling at his collar. She went on. "We've been blessed to raise him in a calm, structured environment while his mother traveled abroad." Every head turned toward me. I didn't blink. My father chimed in. "She's returned now, and of course, we want what's best for Ethan, whatever that may look like." It was all said with that practiced tone, so measured, so reasonable, so full of shit. Then Noah stepped forward like he'd been prompted. He cleared his throat. "Mommy likes birds more than me." A few guests chuckled awkwardly. My hands balled into fists in my lap. "She went to the jungle and forgot about me," he continued, voice flat like a memorized line. "Grandpa says if she takes the money, she'll disappear again." The room went still. I stood up slowly, my voice calm. "I didn't leave for fun. I left to pay for diapers, not safaris." My mom shot me a warning look. I ignored it. "I took a contract that paid enough to keep him healthy and cared for. Every cent I earned, half of it went into this house while I was gone." One of the neighbors, the Carmichaels, shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Carmichael looked down at her lap. Her husband just sipped his wine. Then Noah said it, loud and clear. "Grandpa said if Mommy takes the money, she's gone forever." It cut through the room like a blade. Every pair of eyes turned, not to him, to them. My dad coughed into his hand. My mom looked frozen, like her mask cracked for half a second. Mrs. Renzo stood up. "Well, I think we should head out." "Of course," my mom stammered. "Thank you for coming." One by one, the room emptied. Quiet goodbyes, avoided eye contact. The air was thick with discomfort and fake politeness. Mrs. Carmichael lingered near the doorway. She touched my arm lightly. "I didn't know," she said under her breath. I believe you. And then she was gone. My mom shut the door with a sharp click and turned on me, eyes blazing. But I didn't flinch, because now I had something more powerful than their lies. A crack. My mother opened her mouth, ready to spit something sharp. I walked right past her and went upstairs without a word. She followed me halfway, stopped when I turned and looked at her like I could see through her skin. I didn't say a thing. Next morning, I started digging. I waited until they left for the grocery store, then pulled down every shoebox, tote bin, and fake storage basket in the guest room closet. After 15 minutes, I found a small stack of manila envelopes rubber banded together. My handwriting, my stamps, still sealed, all addressed to Noah. They'd never opened them. I opened one, hands trembling, and pulled out a photo of me standing next to a colorful mural of macaws, holding a handmade sign. For Noah, love, Mommy. I shoved it into a binder I found in the junk drawer, grabbed a Sharpie, wrote TRUTH on the front. It was just the beginning. That afternoon, while Noah napped, I pulled up my old bank statements. There it was, monthly transfers labeled Family Support, going to a joint account I hadn't touched since Eric died. But the account name? My dad's. I took screenshots, printed what I could. Then I started emailing. I got a reply that night from Dr. Yvette Singh, the field medic from my team in Peru. Riley stabilized a local man after a fall in the ravine, administered wound care, and kept him conscious until help arrived. She's one of the most grounded, capable people I've worked with. I added that to the binder. 2 days later, my former supervisor sent a formal letter. This position included childcare stipends. Riley never missed a check-in. She wired half her income to a U.S. household bank account monthly, as requested for her son's care. I printed it, slid it in behind the photos. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I shifted tactics. That week, I started cooking breakfast, just me and Noah. Pancakes one day, scrambled eggs the next. I let him stir. I let him crack the eggs even when he got shells in the bowl. I read to him every night, no matter how stiff he sat at first. One night, he leaned into my side without thinking. I didn't mention it. We started walking around the block in the afternoons. I pointed out birds. He started pointing them out too. Less talk about grandma, more questions. Did you really ride in a boat with crocodiles? Did you ever get stung? I answered honestly, kept it simple. Let him lead. One quiet afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Mrs. Carmichael. She looked around before stepping inside. I shouldn't be long, she whispered. I overheard your parents the night after the dinner. I think you should know. They're planning something. Your mother said you were mentally volatile. Your father said, we'll build a case. My throat tightened, but I kept my face calm. Would you be willing to put that in writing? She didn't even hesitate. Yes. I wrote it down word for word, handed her a copy to review. She signed. After she left, I slipped her note into the binder, right behind the bank statements. And I stood there for a second, holding it. I didn't have to scream to fight. I just had to prove they weren't telling the truth. Next morning, I was up before the coffee finished brewing. I emailed the foundation director from my Peru contract and asked if she could put me in touch with the program's social worker. 2 hours later, a woman named Elaine called me. Of course I remember you, she said. You requested every possible stipend for your son. The education credits, the monthly childcare allowance. You were the only one who ever asked if toys could be reimbursed. I laughed, short and bitter. I don't suppose you'd be willing to write that down? Already drafting it. By noon, her statement landed in my inbox. I printed it, slid it into the binder behind Mrs. Carmichael's note. Piece by piece, the truth was stacking up. That afternoon, I took Noah to his preschool to pick up some extra clothes he'd left there before I came back. His old teacher, Miss Lauren, was on her lunch break. She spotted me and smiled gently, but it didn't reach her eyes. He always talked about you like a dream. I tilted my head. What do you mean? He'd ask if moms come back after the jungle. He once told me, my mom flies with parrots now. Then he'd get quiet, like he didn't know if you were real or not. She went to her desk, dug through a drawer, and pulled out a folder. I don't know if this helps, but he drew this a few weeks ago. She held up a crayon picture, 2 stick figures on opposite sides of a bridge. One was labeled Mom, the other me. Between them was a red heart. I felt it hit me in the chest. I took the drawing carefully like it was made of glass. Can I keep it? Of course. I slid it into the front of the binder the second we got home. It was the first thing you saw when you opened it. That night, Noah brushed his teeth without being told. He picked out his own storybook. As I tucked him in, he looked at me for a long second like he was studying my face. Are you mad at Grandma? I sat beside him, smoothed the blanket over his legs. No, I said. Just sad about the lies. He nodded slowly. I like honest. I leaned down and kissed his forehead. Me too. I turned off the light and left the door cracked open behind me. The binder was on the dresser, front and center, crayon bridge showing. That's when I finally understood. This wasn't just a custody fight anymore. I was taking my son back one truth at a time. The courthouse smelled like old paper and floor polish. I sat on the hard bench outside the courtroom, the binder in my lap, the monkey toy resting right on top. Its eyes looked as worn as I felt. Noah sat next to me, swinging his feet, quiet but calm. I kept one hand on his back the whole time. Just that small contact, steady and warm. The bailiff called us in. My parents were already seated with their lawyer, a smug man in a gray suit with slicked back hair and a folder he kept tapping like it was a prop. My mom gave me a tight smile. My dad didn't even look at me. The judge, a tired-looking woman with half-moon glasses and no patience for games, sat down and motioned to begin. Their lawyer stood first. Your Honor, we are not here to question the biological relationship. We are here to argue for consistency, structure, and the emotional well-being of the child. Ms. Walker has been absent, by choice. She placed her career above her role as a mother. He handed over a stack of timelines, photos, and highlighted email headers. The Walkers have provided a stable, nurturing home since the father's death. Our concern isn't hostility, it's disruption. He sat down, self-satisfied. My mother reached over and gave his arm a squeeze. I stood. I'd like to submit Exhibit A, I said, walking to the bench. This is a binder of letters, gifts, and records. These packages were never given to my son. I opened it. Here are the envelopes, stamped, addressed, postmarked, never opened. The judge leaned forward slightly. Exhibit B, bank statements showing monthly transfers from my account to the Walkers. The account is under Mr. Walker's name, labeled Household Care. These began 3 weeks after my husband's funeral. I turned the page. Exhibit C, a statement from my former supervisor in Peru, confirming I accepted a hardship field position with built-in childcare stipends. I requested every option available to support my son. I stepped back, voice steady. I didn't disappear. I provided, and they made sure he never knew. Their lawyer rose again. Your Honor, these funds are irrelevant. Ms. Walker willingly chose to work thousands of miles away, I cut in, to keep the lights on, to pay for his inhalers. This wasn't a dream trip, it was survival. The judge held up a hand. Let her finish. I took a breath. Exhibit D, I said, flipping the page. A sworn statement from the family's next-door neighbor, Mrs. Carmichael. She overheard conversations between my parents, plans to build a case against me, quotes like, "Will be the logical choice once the inheritance clears." The room shifted. Their lawyers scribbled something fast. I pulled out the final piece. And Exhibit E, a drawing from my son's preschool, one figure labeled Mom, one labeled Me, a red bridge between us. I placed the drawing at the front of the binder and looked up at the judge. This isn't about money. This is about trust, and someone worked very hard to destroy mine. My last witness entered the courtroom. Dr. Singh, my team lead from Peru. She wore her lab coat over her travel shirt like she'd come straight from the field. She took the stand and spoke clearly. She's the reason families stayed safe. Riley wasn't just competent. She was the first one up and the last one to sleep. When a villager was injured in a remote canyon, Riley rappelled down without waiting for backup. She kept him alive for 3 hours. Their lawyer tried to object. The judge shut it down. She's describing character, the judge said. Finally, the judge turned to Noah. He sat on the bench between me and the court-appointed child advocate. Noah, the judge said gently, would you like to say anything? He looked nervous. His legs swung. Then he spotted the monkey in my lap. He slid off the bench, walked to me, and put a hand on the toy. Mommy sent that, he said. The courtroom fell silent. The judge leaned back. I've heard enough. She turned her gaze toward my parents. What I see here is deliberate obstruction, manipulation, and an attempt to replace the mother, not support her. She signed the ruling. Full custody returns to Ms. Walker. Visitation terms to be reviewed, Court is adjourned. My mom gasped. You can't do this. My dad stood, mouth tight, fists clenched. I didn't say a word. I just took my son's hand in mine and walked out of that courtroom without looking back. We moved into a one-story rental with peeling shutters and a crooked mailbox. The front porch sagged a little, but the backyard had a tree strong enough for a tire swing, and the kitchen didn't smell like lies. That first night, we sat on the living room floor with a box of pepperoni pizza between us and root beer in plastic cups. Noah grinned, sauce on his cheek. This is the best dinner ever, he said, mouthful. I laughed. Better than Grandma's pot roast? He didn't even hesitate. Way better. That became our first new tradition. Victory meals on the floor. After big days, good days, hard days. Sandwiches with names like the Jungle Crunch and Macaw Melt. He started asking to help. Spread peanut butter, slice cucumbers, fold the napkins. Bedtime was different now too. No more stiff routines. He picked the stories. Sometimes we made them up together. I'd do silly voices and he'd laugh so hard he'd fall off the bed. At school, he drew another picture, 2 stick figures, holding hands under a big flag. The teacher handed it to me at pickup. The flag said, in bold crayon letters, Mom keeps promises. I didn't cry in front of her. I waited until we got home. Then I taped it to the fridge like it was a damn award. Later that weekend, we installed the tire swing. I held the rope while he tied the first knot, tongue poking out in concentration. I tightened it behind him, making sure it wouldn't slip. He climbed in, kicked off, and screamed, Higher, Mom! Higher! I pushed him, his laughter bouncing off the fence and into the trees. That night, after bath time and toothbrushing and his third request for marshmallows, we curled up on the couch with a blanket and the monkey between us. He looked up at me, sleepy-eyed. Tell me the monkey story again. I wrapped my arm around him and started from the beginning. The jungle market, the dusty stall, the vendor who carved it from driftwood, mailing it with a note he never got, watching it sit on the floor while he turned away from me, all the way to now. To here. He didn't say anything when I finished, just leaned against me, warm and quiet. His breathing slowed. I sat there in our uneven little house with my son asleep on my shoulder and the monkey tucked beside us, and I finally breathed easy because the truth had done its job.